These are 8 American things that I didn't realize were so American until moving to Australia. Hey, what's up you guys? Ashley here. Welcome back to the channel. I've been doing this in like short form version over on my TikTok and Instagram, so make sure to go check that out. I'll have them linked down below as well, where just, especially since the last time I went home to the US in August, I just picked up on more and more things where I was like, wow, I did not realize this was like so American. And it was also like moments like those where I was just like, genuinely, I don't think that I'll ever stop having random little culture shocks come up. So let's share them. I haven't done a sit down video in a while. Like, subscribe, let's get into it. First topic, phone bills. Phone bills are so much more expensive in the US. I was blown away when I lived in New Zealand and then when I moved here to Tasmania, how cheap phone plans are relatively. Obviously, all of this is just relative in my experience. I currently live in Hobart, Tasmania, but I have traveled around Australia a bit, and then I have lived in many different places throughout the US growing up. But phone bills, I swear it was definitely well over 100 USD last time I lived in the US, just for like enough data just to get me by for the month, and literally just for one person over 100 USD, whereas here in Tas, I currently pay like 60 Australian a month. So, and I have like over 250 gigs of data, which I never use all of it, but that's well under half. That's like 40 USD Australia versus 100 plus USD in the US. And I was really shocked about that one because especially living in Tasmania, especially, I was like, oh yeah, phone bills, like things are just actually gonna be more expensive. It's a bit more rural. It's an island off an island, yada yada. But no, I don't know. Have you ever experienced that or whatnot? Cause like, I think it was one of the first things I like really picked up on, and then I was reminded of it recently and I was like, oh wow, like that is so much cheaper here. Why is it so much cheaper here versus in the US? So cheaper phone bills, pros of moving to Australia. Number 2 is wages. This one's probably the most universal, like the most, I guess, known. Like, this isn't a niche topic. I'm not inventing anything here, but I'm still reminded very frequently throughout my week of how grateful I am to live in a country that pays their workers more than $8 an hour. I remember growing up and in the US, and the federal minimum wage was like $7 and something cents. I don't know what it is now, to preface, and I know different states have different minimum wages and whatnot, but still, like, especially casual rates here being sometimes upwards of almost $30 an hour Australian, but then when you convert it, that's still like 22, 23 USD. That's just something that I know there's so many layers to pay, and I know in the US, on the other hand, growing up in a family that has a small business, like how expensive it is to cover everything and pay wages. And I know there's just so many layers to this topic. So this is more of just like an open discussion, just an open thought process. Another pro moving to Australia, overall higher wages, especially if you are looking into hospo or retail and you're looking to move to Australia and just want like a whatever job just to get your footing, and you're just looking for a random job just to get acclimated. I definitely think it's a lot easier because, like, for example, when I was doing this whole debacle of figuring out if I wanted to stay in Australia after my degree or move back to the US, one of the things that, like, I literally have a sticky note on my wall to remind me is regardless of what country I move to, both would have no job and I would have to figure that out. But like just a random hospo or retail job to hold me over in the US, I would be getting not even 20 Australian an hour minimum. So, or maybe even maximum depending on what state. And that just wasn't much to live on. And that definitely would have made things a bit harder for sure. And I get a lot of anxiety around money. So another check in the Australia columns, we have cheaper phone bills and higher wages. Next, this is just a complete turn of events. Ketchup. Yeah, so I knew ketchup was American. Obviously, like the one thing that always gets like, oh, that's so American is like burgers and ketchup and fries and hot dogs and mustard and like food, like fast food things. Like, yeah, cool, we get it, that's American. But the amount of times that this really became ever present when my family came over for Christmas last year, and you know, you would get ketchup with fries or whatever, but then you would taste the ketchup and it was tomato sauce. And they are different. I have been fighting people in the TikTok comments. They are different. Google even confirmed that it's different. Thank you, Google. Because ketchup has like more sugar and it's a little bit thicker and normally is a bit more like vinegary, whereas tomato sauce, however you pronounce it, in my experience is a lot more watery. There's not as much flavor. I'm sure there's some sugar in some of them, but yeah, they are different and I much prefer ketchup. Like to the point where I was so upset not too long ago, I forget where I went, that I went to the store and I got a Heinz bottle of ketchup. So thank you, Kohl's, for supplying me with my needs. Number 4, the parking brake. Oh my goodness, if you follow me on TikTok, this was a whole thing. Like just over a month ago now, maybe even 2 months ago, is obviously I knew with manual cars that you use your parking brake a lot more with the clutch and the different gear shifts and whatnot. And manual cars are definitely more common here in Australia than in the US, like definitely more automatic cars. Like growing up, I really only drove automatic cars in the US, but even with automatic cars here in Australia, I see everyone use the parking brake. And I was just like, that is so interesting, because growing up, I was never taught to use the parking brake at all in an automatic car unless you were like parked on a hill of sorts. And then it was really interesting though, because a lot of the comments on the TikTok were really nice and they were very educational with all the different things about like, oh, like it helps this part of your car over time and yada yada. And then I was like, well, maybe the cars I've driven have had like an automatic, like when you put it into park, like an extra automatic park brake of sorts. I don't know, I'm not a mechanic at all. Very educational comment section about how, at least the cars here in Australia, it is definitely good to use your parking brake. So noted, lesson learned. Bank transfers, keeping it going down the list. Chatted about this before. I'm getting more used to it now, but especially in the first year when people are like, oh, what's your account number? What's your BSB? I was like, like in the US, I was taught like to hold that dear to your heart. Do not share that with anyone. But here it's just so casual. It's just like, oh yeah, here's my account details. Like there's literally a thing on my bank app here where it's like, oh, copy your details, send it to a friend. And it's just so chill. And I'm more used to it now, but in the US, I'm just so used to Venmo. Like such an American thing is Venmo. Like, oh, I'll Venmo you. I'll Venmo you this. And yeah, just bank transfer situation is so different and getting used to it now. But at first when I moved here, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Venmo. Nope, it's just a US thing. You do bank transfers here. I'm learning. It's been almost 2 years and I'm still learning. Takeaway breakfast. I honestly could do one just on like food situations, but I feel like, I don't know, if you're interested in that or if anything pique your interest, please let me know down in the comments. Engagement does mean a lot. I would love to have you. Let's discuss in the comments. So takeaway breakfast is such an American thing. Yes, there are some places, at least, again, I can only speak for Tasmania at the moment because that is currently where I live, but even when I visited like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and whatnot, takeaway breakfast is not that much of a thing. Like in the US, it is so normal to, when you go get your coffee, to get a takeaway breakfast sandwich, to get something on the go. Like breakfast on the go is a lot more of a thing. Yes, cafes here, some of them do have like bacon and egg rolls, but that's it. And not everywhere has it. Like it's not as common. And then if they do have bacon and egg rolls, it's not super accommodating for people that have any dietary requirements. Like for example, the amount of like bacon and egg rolls here that are like coated in butter or cheese. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's a bummer. Like everything's pre-made, so then I can't have any. And obviously everywhere's different, but I've just noticed that like in the US, like a bagel shop or even cafes would do kind of more of like create your own, or most of it was pre-made, but then there was like a lot of room for accommodation to dietary requirements with takeaway breakfast. So, I mean, we all know my situation with bagels, so I'm not really gonna go into that one too much. I mean, if you want any info on that one, I'll have the Daily Mail article linked down below. They also did one about me and bank transfers too, so I guess I'll have that down below as well. Except it was really nice because for the second time the Daily Mail picked up one of my TikToks is they reached out for my permission. And I was like, well, that's really nice, because the first time I had no idea that they thought that a 7-second TikTok about a bagel was that interesting. Nonetheless, takeaway breakfast. I love takeaway breakfast, and I would be really open to seeing a bit more of that here in Australia. Festive decor. I can already hear you guys in the comments. I know a lot of Australians are very much pro minimalist, pro less waste, pro I hate capitalism, and if that is the hill that you want to live on, you are more than welcome to. You are very entitled to have your opinion. That's great for you, but I also am in the middle area where, yes, I understand that festive decor can sometimes be very wasteful depending on what you purchase, but I love Christmas. I love Christmas. You can barely see it in the corner, but I have a little tree with some lights. I have a Christmas blanket. I have all my Christmas presents wrapped like over here that I'm gonna put under my tree. Like, I love feeling festive. I love seasonal decor. I love celebrating the little things like the change of seasons. And I feel like at least Tasmania is a lot better this year. But last year was my first Christmas in Australia, and it was actually quite sad. I understand that, not that I ever expect anyone to have like the insane Christmas light displays that they have in the US, like especially with how much higher energy is here, at least in Tas, but even like cafes or shops, or I don't know, just in the US it's so much more of like a big thing. Even just like the most minimal like festive decor, like it's so cozy, and yeah, I feel like I'm feeling a lot better about it this year because now Tas has TK Maxx, so I've been going there, and there's a couple other cute shops that have been like going all out, and I love it. And on the note more of like, oh, it's wasteful, yada yada, again, yes, I do agree that some of it can be wasteful, but I also do think that it is quite possible to do it in a not so wasteful way. Like all of my decor, almost all of my decor is reused from the previous year. I even brought over some decor that I had in the US, so I'm reusing that. Like, yes, I see both sides of the argument, but I just feel like whenever I say, oh yeah, I love Christmas, I love festive decor, the main argument is, oh, that's so wasteful, screw capitalism. So pick your side. You're entitled to it, but I'm gonna pick the I like Christmas side, and I'm allowed to celebrate Christmas. And thank you for your consideration. To round off this list, receipt numbers, and receipt numbers not being rounded. Like, yes, obviously here in Australia we do not have pennies. Yet that wasn't a culture shock. Like, yes, every country has different change, different coins, all the different currencies, yes. But even moving here, it was quite interesting to see that, especially if like something's like a weird percentage off or whatnot, the receipt here in Australia, like $20.97 for example, or something literally will be something 99. And that is so normal. But then it'll literally have another line here in Australia that says like rounded 1 cent, because, you know, there are no pennies. And so it's just so interesting. Or even when I went home to the US the last time, and literally first thing I did off the plane was, I need a Dunkin' iced coffee. I need caffeine in my veins. It's been like 20 hours on a plane. And I ordered my coffee, and then it was, oh yeah, that'll be like $2.93 or something. And I'm like, how did the 93, where, what? Obviously in the US tax and everything is added on top of everything. It's not like here in Australia where almost all prices it's included, which is a whole other different thing, but it's just like, oh right, yeah, no, everything gets rounded here, but in the US it's like, yeah, cool, I'll take your 3 pennies, please. No rounding, I want my 3 pennies. I hope you found this interesting. I would love to do more of these kind of sit down videos. I feel like I haven't really done them in a while, with chatting more in depth about different things that I've like realized, or culture shocks, or, you know, differences. Like, I still find them so interesting even after, like I said, living here for almost 2 years. So I'm gonna go get festive, get cozy. I have my gingerbread candle burning. I was gonna say brewing. No, burning right now, but I do actually need to go make another coffee. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment. Was any of this interesting? I would love to know. Please leave me a comment if you get this far. I'd love to chat more. And I appreciate you guys, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.